In the year 1066, England was invaded by Vikings. Twice, in the same month, by two different armies. One was led by a giant Norwegian king. The other was led by Vikings who had spent so long in France they now spoke French, drank wine, and had opinions about cheese. And here's the twist. The French-speaking ones won. To understand how we got here, we need to go back almost 300 years to a quiet little island full of monks. It's the year 793, northern England, the holy island of Lindisfarne, the most sacred place in the kingdom. Monks are praying, copying books, and doing absolutely nothing dangerous. Life is peaceful. Meanwhile, across the sea, Scandinavia has a problem. Actually, 3 problems. Too many people, not enough farmland, and, this is real, not enough wives, because wealthy chieftains kept marrying several of them. So you're a young Norseman with no land, no wife, and no prospects. What do you have? The best ships in the world. Sleek, fast, shallow. They could cross an ocean and sail up a river. Basically a sports car that works on water. And someone, somewhere, figured out a beautiful fact. Christian monasteries were full of gold and guarded by monks, whose combat training consisted of praying. On June 8th, 793, ships appeared off Lindisfarne. The monks came down to the shore. Some historians think they tried to greet the visitors. The visitors were not there to be greeted. Within hours, the holiest island in England was looted, burning, and short several monks. Europe was horrified. A scholar named Alcuin wrote, quote, "Never before has such terror appeared in Britain." The Viking Age had begun, and the business model was flawless. Sail in, grab gold, sail out before anyone with a sword shows up. For 70 years, this worked. Then the Vikings had an idea. A terrible, wonderful idea. Why keep robbing the bank when you can own the bank? 865. A massive Viking force lands in England. Not a raiding party, an army. The English called it the Great Heathen Army, which is honestly a great band name. According to legend, it was led by the sons of Ragnar Lothbrok, a famous Viking who, the sagas say, was captured by a Northumbrian king and thrown into a pit of snakes. Dying, he supposedly said, "How the little piglets will grunt when they hear how the old boar suffered." That's Viking for, "My kids are going to destroy you." Now, this is saga material, written centuries later. Historians raise an eyebrow. But the sons were real, especially one, Ivar the Boneless. Nobody knows why he was called that. What we do know is that the man could not stop winning. The army landed in East Anglia, whose king gave them horses in exchange for peace. Great deal. They took the horses and rode off to conquer everyone else. First, York, capital of Northumbria, captured. The king, who allegedly owned the snake pit, executed. Then Mercia, battered into paying them off. Then back to East Anglia, you know, the peace and horses people, conquered. Their king, killed. England had 4 kingdoms. In under a decade, 3 had fallen. 1 was left, Wessex. And that's when things got weird. Wessex was run by a young king named Alfred. In early 878, the Vikings launched a surprise attack in the middle of winter during a festival, because Vikings loved attacking people on holidays. Alfred's court was shattered. The last English king was now a guy hiding in a swamp. Not a metaphor, an actual swamp. Alfred spent months in the marshes of Somerset with a handful of men, waging guerrilla war from a fort built on a soggy island. Legend says he hid in a peasant woman's hut and got scolded for burning her cakes. The last free king of England yelled at about cakes. But in that swamp, Alfred did something Vikings never expected. He thought. He summoned the armies of 3 shires in secret, and in May 878 marched out and crushed the Viking army at Edington. Then he besieged their leader, Guthrum, and starved him into surrender. Alfred didn't execute Guthrum. He baptized him, made him a Christian, became his godfather, gave him a new name, and said, "Fine, you keep the east, I keep the west." The Viking half even got a name, the Danelaw. And that's how half of England became legally Viking. They came to rob England. Now they were English taxpayers. Truly, the sharpest sword is paperwork. Meanwhile, France was having a much worse time. Vikings sailed up the Seine over and over, and in 911, the French King Charles, known as Charles the Simple, which tells you a lot, tried something desperate. There was a huge Viking called Rollo. Charles made him an offer. "Stop robbing us, and I'll give you northern France. You keep other Vikings out. You get baptized." Deal? Rollo looked at the rich green land he'd been pillaging and signed. At the ceremony, Rollo was supposed to kiss the king's foot. Legend says he refused and ordered one of his warriors to do it. The warrior grabbed the royal foot and yanked it up to his mouth, flipping the king flat on his back in front of everyone. Probably just a legend. But the deal was real, and the land got a name, the land of the Northmen, Normandy. File that name away. It's loaded on the mantelpiece, and it's going off in Act 5. By the early 1000s, Viking kings had stopped thinking small. A Danish king named Canute invaded England with a professional army, and by 1016, he wasn't raiding England, he ruled it. All of it. Then he inherited Denmark. Then he took Norway. 1 man, 3 crowns, an empire spanning the North Sea. The descendant of pirates was now one of the most powerful rulers in Europe, hanging out with the Pope. You might know Canute from the story where he sits on a beach and commands the tide to stop. People tell it like he was an idiot. It's the opposite. In the original story, he was proving to his flattering courtiers that no king controls the sea, so they'd stop comparing him to God. The most powerful Viking who ever lived, using the ocean to teach humility. But here's the thing about empires built on one man. Canute died in 1035, and the whole thing fell apart almost instantly. His sons died young, and by 1066, there was no heir at all, just a big, shiny, empty throne, and everybody wanted to sit in it. Behind every funny story here, there are real numbers. The raids meant burned villages and thousands of people taken away in chains. The Viking economy ran substantially on the slave trade. Monasteries lost centuries of books and learning in an afternoon. Whole regions were depopulated by war and famine. For the people living through it, this wasn't an adventure story. It was the end of the world, over and over, for 200 years. Worth remembering, before we get to the part where it all comes crashing down. January 1066. The English king dies childless. 3 men want the crown. Harold Godwinson, English, powerful, actually in England, so he just takes it. Harald Hardrada, King of Norway, 6.5 feet of pure Viking, veteran mercenary, the most feared warrior in Europe, and Duke William of Normandy, Remember Normandy? Rollo's great-great-great-grandson, now thoroughly French, who claimed the throne had been promised to him. September. Hardrada invades the north with 300 ships. Harold Godwinson force marches his army 185 miles in about 4 days and catches the Norwegians by surprise at Stamford Bridge. On a warm day, with half their armor back at the ships, it's a massacre. Hardrada takes an arrow to the throat. Of the 300 ships that came, roughly 24 sail home. The last great Viking king is dead. September 25th, 1066, the day the Viking Age died. Harold barely has time to exhale. Because 3 days later, William of Normandy lands in the south. Harold marches his exhausted, bloodied army the entire length of England. 19 days after Stamford Bridge, at Hastings, the shield wall finally breaks. Harold falls. William, from now on, the conqueror, takes England. And here's the best part. Who finally conquered England after 270 years of Viking attempts? The Vikings. Just the ones who'd taken a 2-century detour through France. The Viking Age ended with a Viking victory by Vikings who no longer existed. They'd become farmers in the Danelaw, dukes in Normandy, kings with thrones and taxes and table manners. The raiders didn't lose to Europe. They lost to something far more powerful: a mortgage. Turns out, the easiest way to stop a Viking is to give him a house.